If you are remotely interested into isometrics, or you're like myself and you're trying hard to implement it into your training, I think you're gonna get something out of this video. There's gonna be a lot of cool exercises on a total gym or sliding bench trainer that you guys can implement utilizing isometrics. This is something that's been a long time coming, kind of going through my brain, and finally pulled the trigger and making this video for you guys. So if you guys have one of these things, of course you're gonna find some value out of it, but if you do not have one of these machines, I think you'll find a rationale why at the very least you might wanna find one used and just take advantage of trying some of these things in your home gym. And I say that because these machines have some novel ways you can actually get into stressing and working various exercises and body parts, especially if you got some other tools I'm gonna share with you guys that otherwise you couldn't do. But a couple unique features with using these machines for isometrics is the fact that you can provide various anchor points, and also you can relieve a lot of stress on your back, say lying on the glide board, for things you would normally use, say standing on a board. But with that being said, of course, there's gonna be a time and place where I definitely would say getting off these machines and using something else would be probably the best option. But these are just some ideas, and I'm really just scratching the surface of some of the exercises you guys can do utilizing a total gym or sliding bench trainer. So in this video, I'm gonna break down by body part some of the exercises you guys can do, some of the tools and resources you guys can take advantage of if you want to. Again, there's so many different options and ways you guys could utilize and do these exercises without these tools. And at the end, I'll give you guys some programming options in a more simplistic fashion, and also some resources to help you guys if you want to get more into this world of isometrics. As always, guys, try this stuff at your own risk, but I'm gonna put this disclaimer out there that this thing could potentially, bend, warp the parts on a total gym, and obviously there's a risk of injury. So as always, try these things at your own risk. First and foremost will be something you're gonna see a lot in this video, and that is a pair of straps. Now, I love these Vulcan straps. I've covered them a lot in previous videos. These are kind of a fan favorite in the isometrics world that kind of replaced using chains. Certainly though, you can go to Home Depot and buy some straps, but honestly, I think these will cost about the same if you guys did pick these up on Amazon, and it's cool, they do come in pairs, so very handy. These Vulcan straps are great. Another strap-based system that I use very often, I've covered this. This is one of those Swiss Army knife tools, like I said, that I use very often whenever I need it for something. I'm always happy I got it. That's the IsoFlow from Bullworker. Very versatile, so you could use these in place of the straps, especially for in cases where you want like some sort of cam buckle that's easier to kind of quick and change maneuver exercises. You can also double loop these the second set, so if you guys don't want to use two straps, you guys can use these. So IsoFlow Bullworker is great. And then another Bullworker product you guys are going to see me use when I do these resisted pull-ups is their IsoBow. You can buy these individually. I used to recommend the Angles 90s, and honestly, these are more versatile and cheaper than the Angles 90s attachments. That's why I go to these. And I'm pretty sure you can buy these at a package where you buy both of these come with an IsoFlow. You're not gonna see me use a lot of barbells in the video, but a barbell would come in handy, and actually sometimes I do prefer a barbell over other things. What is cool is the Total Gym weight bar attachment, I've shown this before, actually slips right into the Vulcan strap. So it's not the longest bar in the world. Certainly you can go to the hardware store and get something longer, but that works out with the Vulcan straps. A hook-based bar like this Jay Bryant bar works out good with some Vulcan straps, and I did buy a bunch of these I was going to include for some gifts and some other items, but I thought I might as well actually include it with the Lowrider isometric board I just made. So plug for that board if you guys are interested. You get a free bar with that, maybe some other free goodies too. But some sort of bar, you could use a basic pipe and wind this thing around and have it attached that way. So a lot of different options you guys can do with bars. And then I'm not going to be using it in this video, but certainly if you want to track some metrics, and I do plan on using this more in the future, the ISO Chain ISO Max bar, which I think they discontinued the ISO Chain. You can still buy this bar individually. I will link this down below. Also help support me in the channel if you guys want to pick this up. But a lot of things you guys can see me doing, you could attach, I like to attach actually a swivel to this, and you can do some tracking metrics. A lot of different features here as well, which we'll talk into the programming at the end of the video. And then last but certainly not least is this squat harness. This is one of the new products I've reviewed that I've been using continuously and finding more uses for, especially with isometrics. I think this thing feels awesome off the machine with a board, doing things like resisted squats. You probably could loop the IsoMax bar to this too, but even on the total gym, you're gonna see me kind of maximizing this. You do not need the squat harness. There are some other ways you can kind of get around these things without using bars and attachment points, just using handles, but the squat harness comes in really useful and really handy. First, starting off with the squat harness, I did a whole video recently showing the squat harness on a total gym, and this thing really is a match made in heaven. If I did this in retrospect, I would probably just put one clip on the very end of a Vulcan strap and then just fine tune the other side with one strap so you're not looping it through two loops, if that makes sense. But this just works out perfectly. Of course, you could just use some handles and put them on the clips, just hold on to handles and do like a squat that way, or even like maybe even a bar if you wanted to. But the squat harness just makes you feel super connected, and that tension is right on the legs. You don't have to worry about your arms kind of losing their grip. Excellent exercise. Now this one face down was one of my favorite exercises in general when I used to put some weight on a total gym and do it this way. It looks like it would be awkward, like you're supporting yourself with your arms, which you are, but you don't feel that at all right there. You feel the tension all where you want to feel it, right in the legs. You can see these squat stem bending. So this is one concern. I would say just in general, total gym parts, they're not meant for a lot of, high loads. So we'll see how long this holds up. You guys have seen my past videos. I loaded up at least my old total gym fit with max loads, and the squat stand, at least for me, has held up, so I can't say enough about that. But again, go at your own risk. Now here we got some hamstring curls. These work out excellent. You could do a couple different variations of hamstring curls. I just looped the Vulcan straps, one set of straps around there. You don't necessarily need this, but I like just an extra safety measure I want to show you guys. So if you want to pull yourself out of this hamstring curl, you guys can. Now you guys can see this. I probably should have shown a better shot at this, but my hands are actually down below pushing against the squat stand to actually push me into this angle. So that's what I'm kind of doing. And you'll see in a second, the beauty of this is not only can you do overcoming isometrics where you're trying to fight as hard as you can, but you can do this yielding isometrics. So I can let up my arms and it slowly pulls me down, and then go to the nice eccentric load, and I can kind of push myself back up. So I just want to show you got some play there. And then if you want to get out, just kind of have some sort of safety rope. I have my IsoFlow and pull myself out of there. With the quadriceps, I got one Vulcan strap wrapped around the bottom of the base and then around the weight bar attachment there. And it looks like it would be kind of awkward. You got to be kind of fine tuning the length to sit, at least so you're sitting on a pad. And also watch where my hands are kind of held. They're below the glide board. You got to be really careful to let go at the end, just so your hands don't get trapped under the wheels there. Looks weird, but actually feels good in all the right places. Feels right, dialed in with the tension of the quads. Probably, again, a number of ways you could fine tune the tension. You could maybe even go from the bottom up too, but I think the top down works out, good enough for what it is. And then getting out of it works out fine. I didn't showcase, that's actually the new clench ankle straps. Those are actually pretty decent. And then here we're going into bench pressing or just chest exercises. Very simply, just get a bar. It could be any bar you want. Could be handles. I'm using the J Bryant bar because the clips or the hooks just go perfectly right into that. Could be wider. I think it feels fine, but again, the beauty is you can adjust this however you want, and the glide board just works out perfectly. You could stand out if you want to. I think it's fine if you just are bending down your knees, but works out great. Of course, you can go here off the machine. I always forget this one because even one of my favorite chest exercises where you just feel totally anchored. Where you got one of the only ways on a total gym where you can actually press with some weight and resistance with your back against something. We're going in here, and I'm just using the IsoFlow. Again, you can use a bar if you wanted to. IsoFlow you can adjust though. I tried the handles going on top. I just think it feels better under the forearms, but totally up to you, however you want to use that. Then getting into back, this is great. I mean, this is, again, you do need the squat harness. You got the Vulcan straps there. Seems, again, like a lot of stuff you got to do, but it really does not take long to set up. And I think I just tried one angle right away and got into the angle I wanted to. But I got the IsoBows, I'm forgetting these things, on top of the machine. Now, you could use the Total Gym handles. I actually had them off to the side there. I was going to use them. And then I realized, I got to call an audible because I just know over time those handles cannot handle that weight. They ended up, I think that's like my second or third pair of those Total Gym sent me a while back because I kept breaking them. So those things unfortunately cannot handle high loads. That's why I would do a kind of a isometric vertical pull utilizing some sort of strap on top for more security. And then there's a number of ways. There's probably like 4 or 5 different ways you could do this. But again, you could probably just do this seated down with the board or even with a strap. But you could just anchor yourself and pull yourself to the tower here for a basic row. And you can even detach the cable. This I didn't show enough. There's probably a number of different ways you can detach the cable. But if you're strong enough, you actually can still pull the glide board. So that's why I have the glide board anchored there with the Vulcan straps down below. You could pull with the squat stand, but this is maybe a little iffy. You're going to bend the squat stand, which I think you probably wouldn't, but maybe a slight risk I think could fly off. But I think watching it, I think it'd be fine. But this would probably be the most risky thing. Probably worth just using a board instead. And then with shoulders, pretty basic. I mean, anything you can do with a board or standing with straps, you guys can do in a Total Gym. And what's great about this, like I said at the start, is that this really takes off a lot of pressure and tension off your back and puts it where you want to feel it. The other cool thing, and this is, you might have different thoughts on this, is you can adjust how you want to, on the fly. So I can just bend my legs a little bit and find the angle I want. I can also do yielding isometrics, so I can do some self-resistance, kind of get into different angles. I don't think you feel it as much in your legs, but certainly you can just adjust the tension you want and just do a traditional like board hold with isometrics.
But if you just want to bend your legs or straighten them, it makes it really easy to get into a certain position. You're going to see me here also just doing some yielding isometrics, just basic overcoming isometrics here. And then if I extend my legs, push out, I got this little eccentric load as I'm fighting. And then again, I can kind of gradually do some self-resistance, curling myself back in. So that in itself, honestly, is a whole sequence of exercises that is pretty cool if you want to maximize straps with a total gym. And I just honestly never tried it till right now. And then you could also anchor yourself just doing it this way. Total gym's kind of anchored there with a strap, and I'm just doing detached cable, doing an isometric hold like that. You could probably do that for inverted shoulders. I didn't do an inverted shoulder press. You could do that for sure also. And then triceps, great tricep exercise. Number of different tricep exercise, but I think this one's probably the best, just using a bar anchored, and it feels great like a tricep kind of extension lying on a bench.
So now that you got some exercises, and like I said at the start, this is literally only scratching the surface. I think by seeing these things, a lot of you guys can find your own creativity and ways to kind of finagle and get into various exercises and try some other things. I personally wouldn't be doing all of these things. I would stick to some basic things. And so getting into programming, what I try and do, which is kind of the hardest thing for me, and I did a whole interview with Chris at No Limit Squad, excellent resource, actually looking to have him on a topic that I think you guys are gonna find very interesting. When I interviewed him, and he's someone who just goes in deep dive into isometrics, specifically the ISO Chain, ISO Max product. But I even asked him and told him, one of the hard things for me with isometrics, especially if you're getting a great resource like this Isometrics manual put up by Dragon Door, also link this down below. There's so many programs, you start to overthink things like, can I overdo it? When's the proper time of the day? How many exercises and what should I do? It gets to be kind of confusing. And I will say you can kind of overdo stuff. And I learned that the hard way with this handy gym product I just reviewed, because this thing can rip up your arms and your quads. And I find the same thing, I can overdo isometrics. So trying to kind of fine tune the right way of programming can be a tough thing. Not to mention if you go on the internet, there's all different types and styles and ways and special recommendations by people that are in the isometrics world on the proper way, quote unquote, to do things. However, with all that being said, I think the Isometrics manual is a great resource, and getting this specific programming, I even asked, Chris, when I interviewed him, like, well, what's like the basic kind of bare bones program you think is most effective? And he said the Bob Hoffman's Classic 8, or even the Bruce Lee program. Always keep in mind that any exercise that you guys can do dynamically can be replicated using isometrics. So that's either in substitution of in a given workout, or to say supplement a weak spot. So let's say you don't have the facilities or resources or tools to say your hamstrings, or even like the total gym. Some of you guys complain about certain exercises that don't work too well. You could substitute one of those exercises with say an isometric exercise to get to say a good max contraction, or you could do things like a kind of a pre-exhaust set or superset with isometrics to help kind of hit those target muscles. So kind of keep that in mind. You can always substitute those things. And I find there's a lot of people on the internet that actually do that. They actually just do isometric only programming for one reason or another. Could be an injury, could be a nagging body part. So just keep that in your head. You can actually kind of substitute them and integrate it into your program. Now, if you did choose to go that route where you're incorporating isometrics into your workout and or replacing that, what I would recommend you guys do based on what I'm reading so far is maybe choose that exercise and get up to maybe a 45, 60, or 90-second hold. And when you do that 45, 60, or 90-second hold, you're gonna progressively increase that resistance. So a good stopwatch or a clock on the wall would be handy, but maybe the first 15, 20 seconds or so, depending on how long that time you're going for, could be about 50% effort, then you're going up to like 75, 85, and then those last, maybe say 20 or so seconds, you can maybe go full bore until you completely kind of exhaust and fatigue the muscle. Or the other option, if you don't want those longer holds, is to do what's recommended a lot in this isometrics manual and a lot of the overcoming isometrics just areas, is to do something of like a 6 to 12 second max hold. Even if you did that though, I wouldn't necessarily just jump right into it. I would gradually kind of ramp up that intensity until you got to that max hold. But you do something like that. And then the other option, if you don't want to substitute specific workouts, movement patterns, is to incorporate your solid isometric plan, or your overcoming isometric plan, I should say, specifically in the front end of the workout. That's what I got from, again, Chris from No Limit Squad. I asked him his recommendations, what he likes to do with clients. He said, do the isometrics part first and then go into your dynamic exercise. And if you are gonna go that route with sticking to some sort of solid plan, find the stuff that really works for you. But again, keep it simple. I do like that Bob Hoffman's Big 8 or the Bruce Lee simple program, but even that, you don't have to go, you can pick 6 or 8 exercises. You can even pick like 3 exercises. But again, something is probably better than nothing, and some plan is better than no plan. And then the final option is to just program them at a later date or a later time. So I'm training at a lot lower frequency with my dynamic resistance exercise. So for me, probably the best thing that works for me is to really probably do it at a later date or on those off days, or maybe I want to do something, or I should say off days from the dynamic exercises, and just schedule them on those other periods of the days or just time in the day. So I think that was something else me and Chris got into that he also recommended. Because personally, that ladder out just sounds a little more doable for me. And even though I say I'm struggling with Isometrics, one tool that I've actually been using a lot in like the 3-ish months, I wasn't sure when to make a video about this, has been this bull worker, believe it or not. I keep it in my living room if it's out in the open. My wife hates it being out there, but whenever it's out in the open, end of the evening and stuff like that, I'm just doing reps on this thing. It's hard not to. You want to pick it up and just start doing different exercises. So this is something, as far as Isometrics is concerned, I'm doing some other like dynamic reps too, but I have a lot of fun with this thing. So if you have a hard time just getting in some Isometrics, or you just want like a fun tool, bull worker works too. And again, if you guys want to pick up some sort of Isometrics based board, I'm going to be giving away again a Jay Bryant bar with every purchase. And I know you guys are asking about the full size Mac boards. Mac's actually outside right now, working on that. But that's it, guys. Definitely not an exhaustive video. I know this is a world, people got a lot of opinions on the matter. Definitely feel free to share your comments and tips down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.